What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we've got some new Shadowkeep and Season 8 stuff to jump in and talk about. So a few different news things to touch on. We get a look at new armor sets for Vex Offensive, as well as universal and exotic ornaments, Season 8 exotic weapons, and we see what a Vex invasion is actually going to look like in the world. But then let's cover returning classic items and weapon pickups, new exotic bonuses and quest rewards, a whole bunch of Sandbox changes, including a pretty major rework to Rally Barricade and Lunafaction boots. There's some other changes that'll affect PvP, and we'll touch on some menu updates and other new Shadowkeep details. So guys, as always, thank you for tuning into the video. If you enjoy it, a rating really helps me out. But now, let's get into the news. And so initially, before we talk about any of the Shadowkeep stuff or Sandbox changes, Bungie updated the Shadowkeep page with a few more Season 8 details and images. And so firstly, we have the new armor sets right here, and this is our first chance to get a proper look at the Vex Offensive gear. So as Bungie outlined, this will be able to drop in the Vex Offensive mode, which is part of Season 8 specifically and not Shadowkeep, but also because it's seasonal gear, these armor pieces will be featured in the new kind of Battle Pass system that Bungie are implementing. So they can be acquired through seasonal ranks, as well as gameplay in Vex Offensive, but it's caused a little bit of confusion because we've also seen these armor pieces, and we know that none of these are associated with the raid specifically, but what we're seeing with the second set right here are actually universal ornaments according to the Bungie page. So there are both the ornamented and non-ornamented versions of these sets, and some folks have brought up the concept art that we saw for armor next season, and are wondering essentially where it is, but if you pay closer attention to the universal ornaments, you can see that they are the finished in-game versions of what we originally see in that concept art. Specifically, if you look at the Warlock helmet right there, it has the two kind of points on the top, and then the character on the right that has the wings on the armor pieces, you can also just about make that out in that concept too. The only difference is that they left the kind of organic elements, the leaves and stuff from the Black Garden, on the non-ornamented versions. So yeah, just a random fact about that. But here we see Leviathan's Breath pictured, so this is the new heavy bow, and it's one of the exotics that of course we'll acquire through the Season Pass, so once again, that will include ranks in the new record book. And jumping back to the previous image, it looks like the Warlock is holding this bow but with an exotic ornament. Ariana's Vow is the hand cannon that we can see on screen, so this is the one with the long range scope on. And so right there, that gives us a better look at some of the exotics, the armor pieces, and as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts below. Bungie also provided some new season images though, and we get our first look at what a Vex invasion will do to the world. So we can see the Vex invading the moon here, and you've got this kind of giant portal opening up in the sky, and from the lightning emerge the Garden Vex, so it'll definitely be easy to spot when these are taking place in different locations. We do, however, also see one in the Black Garden here. Not certain if this is the raid, or whether this will be part of the Vex Offensive mode, but in terms of the Vex invasion on the moon, Bungie have confirmed that this will happen as a direct response to the Guardians invading the Black Garden as part of the raid. And so on October 5th, or after the raid is completed, we can expect some pretty interesting things to start taking place in the world. Now though, moving to some Shadowkeep and a little bit of new light stuff. Spoiler alert right here, we're going to talk about a returning item, and a very nostalgic one at that. But if you played D1, of course, you'll remember the very first weapon that we ever used, and that was the Kvostov 7G that we picked up in the Cosmodrome Wall. Of course, in New Light, there's going to be a new version of that kind of opening mission, and so the white version of Kvostov at least is going to be available for that. But seeing as we're getting the original, could we also possibly get the exotic version back? Well, of course, it could be a thing, but speculation aside, we're also getting the Generalist shell, which is the base ghost shell from D1, as well as the Arcadia class jump ship. These images were shared from PAX by Technobold on Reddit, but if you are an existing player and nostalgia has the better of you, Bungie have confirmed that the Cosmo intro mission for New Light will be accessible as a heroic story mission. And so if you do want to go and experience that and collect the rewards, it'll be possible via the heroic playlist even if you're not a new player. Now though, of course we've seen a bunch of exotics out of PAX as well. Firstly, there was mention of the raid exotic Divinity. It is confirmed as the raid weapon, but some folks also mentioned a possible exotic quest for this, where we'll find a legendary version first via the Vex Offensive, and then have to upgrade it, and finally turn it into an exotic in the raid. But apparently, that is not actually the case, so presumably this exotic will drop in the game, plus I'm sure a legendary version of it would have been spotted at PAX like most of the other loot if that was the case. However, DEATHBRINGER is also an exotic quest weapon, and we now get details about both of the perks on it. So the main one is Dark Deliverance, fires remotely detonated projectiles that drop void orbs on enemies, and you hold the trigger to fire, but release to detonate. It also has Dark Descent. The further a void orb falls, the more powerful its detonation becomes. And so basically, the better your timing, the later you can release that, the more damage you'll actually be able to get. The interesting thing about this exotic in general though, is that it's very clearly linked to the Death Singers. somebody did actually post the lore tab right here. Sing them a lullaby of death and nothing more. Of course, Yut was the death singer in the Crota's End raid, but a curious thing from some of the Shadowkeep trailers is that we actually see the Nightmare of Crota 2 different times in different locations. One of them is one of the mission spaces on the moon, but then we also see Crota in the Crota's End raid. And with the reference to the Death Singer here, I'm kind of wondering if Crota's End is gonna be the dungeon, and there is wide community speculation that this could be a dungeon reward. There's also a new screenshot that shows us that the original Crota's End spawn point or entrance is actually there on the moon, but for Shadowkeep, there's a new hive portal like those that we saw on the Dreadnought. And that makes it look like there's going to be a persistent reason to go back there, so I genuinely think that Crota's End, or that space, could be part of the dungeon in Shadowkeep. On top of this, like Shattered Throne, this could be accessible from patrol, so pretty interesting stuff. Something I didn't cover before was a look at the perks for the Stormdancer'S brace, so of course a new Warlock exotic, but the intrinsic is called Ascending Amplitude. Each enemy you defeat with Storm Trance increases the damage you deal with Storm Trance. A pretty interesting sounding exotic. It doesn't necessarily sound super powerful, but really it all hinges on exactly how much bonus damage you get. On top of this, we have seen the new machine gun that's coming for Shadowkeep. The intrinsic bonus is Pyrotoxin rounds, which fires high-powered explosive ammunition, but someone who got to use the weapon at PAX said that it fires like an instant linear fusion rifle, appears to have no drop-off and does 150 to the body, but also allows one-shot headshots. It's semi-automatic, has 3 in the mag with a maximum of 13, and apparently it's a bunch of fun to use, so high-powered explosive ammunition on this thing definitely sounds different. It isn't your run-of-the-mill machine gun for sure, so really look forward to getting more information about that. Now though, let's talk about quality of life and Sandbox updates. So Chung Bungus on Reddit did list a bunch of changes that they noticed in the game, and this was in the PAX build, so apparently almost all of the exotics in the game, especially a bunch of Year 1 stuff, are getting new thumbnail images in the UI. Apparently shaders are going to be better displayed, and specifically, you'll be able to view more shaders in your inventory on one page. The Crucible and Vanguard Year 1 armor sets are back into the rotation at those vendors, but dropping as 2.0 versions, and they confirm that when you get the first set of armor, you'll be given a mod starter kit, which comes with 12 or more mods that are general mods, like increased resilience, recovery, agility, paragon, and small arms loader. To get more mods, you'll need to depend on Banshee's daily rotation, and pinnacle activities like Nightmare Hunts, Nightfalls, Raids, and Dungeons. Some mods will be returning, like the Opulent mods, Leviathan mods, Fallen mods, and Taken mods, but also Gambit and Strikes will have their own unique mods. So a couple of interesting things there, but then in terms of Sandbox, we get a few accounts from folks who played that build. So Triple Wreck did tweet out and said that the new Sandbox changes are very noticeable. Tether one-shots Guardians again, so that's definitely a positive change for Hunters, and I think for that subclass it has been very much needed for PvP. On top of this, roaming super armor has clearly been reduced, and snipers could counter strikers and dawns with a single 90 RPM sniper headshot. So Bungie have done some pretty noticeable retuning on the amount of armor and health that players have in supers, but a few different people have also confirmed that in the PAX build, both Lunafaction boots but also rally barricades have been completely reworked and now grant increased reload speed when they're active. Now that's quite a big change, especially for DPS stuff. It's going to completely change the dynamic from where we are right now, you know, where you could just keep firing mountaintops or rockets or whatever it is at bosses. There's also speculation that things like Izanagi's Burden, of course because we're talking about a reload speed here, could potentially be a new DPS monster. I think we should definitely wait for more details about it from Bungie, but those will definitely be a couple of very significant changes, especially in the harder PvE content. Back to Sunshot that we mentioned the other day, we have this lovely picture of Dylan and Cosmo at PAX, and they were teasing us that Sunshot now has 12 rounds in the mag. Certainly an improvement over what we have at the moment. DMG also confirmed randomly there will be no grenade launcher nerfs in Shadowkeep, so that's good. But then according to more accounts from the Crucible at PAX, 340 round a minute pulse rifles now hit 34 on each crit, and that's going to make them a reliable 2-burst kill. One of the new sniper rifles in the build could roll with no distractions and snapshot. All infusion of weapons required a new material. Of course, we've seen some of the new materials coming in Shadowkeep. And then heavy spawned less in Crucible, but was shared by the entire team. And that's something that was previewed in some of the recent updates. And so that's a roundup of just a bunch of stuff that we've kind of learned from PAX. Some folks even snuck a couple of bits of gameplay out. So Michael McDonald uploaded a quick clip using the Loud Lullaby hand cannon. Appears to be a 110 hand cannon right here. We can also see it's just got 8 rounds in the mag, but we can see a little bit of what it actually looks like to use the weapon Of course though, we should wait to get hands on before we jump to too many conclusions. Plus, this is a pre-release build, so it's still possible that certain things are going to change. So with all of that Sandbox stuff out of the way, there's been a lot of conversation about raid armor being reskinned. So of course, we're talking about the Omega Mechanos set from back in Curse of Osiris. This is the armor that you could actually get at Eververse. And since we've had an early look at some of the raid gear, we can tell that it is reworked Eververse armor. So DMG said he wanted to take a moment to confirm that this is the raid gear, just to set the record straight. We're currently out of the office and at PAX, but once we're back in the office, we'll have more details on what's coming. But with that confirmation, there's been some definite anger from the community. Of course, we don't like reskinned gear in general. We have seen reskins in raids in Destiny 2, you know, when it was kind of like the Eater of Worlds and Spire of Stars stuff. But of course, this is again on a kind of different level, because they're actually reskinning Eververse gear for the raid, and so I do get how, by concept alone, it really doesn't seem super fantastic. And I totally agree, man. I'm always talking about armor visuals and stuff in Destiny. As you guys know, unique themed gear is totally up my street. And so at the very least, I can totally understand players feeling frustrated. Funnily enough, the Omega Mechanos armor is probably one of my favorite sets for the Titan in Destiny 2. And so from that perspective, for me, I don't think the gear's actually going to look bad. And so while I agree with you guys, I kind of leave my opinions there for the moment. As DMG said, it's possible they could touch on this. And so I'm curious to see if there's any kind of feedback loop from Bungie about it. But what do you guys think? Let us know down below. But outside of that, I think there's a lot of cool looking content in Shadowkeep, we just need to get more details about it. But also, with so many things changing in the game, another big thing is actually just getting hands-on, experiencing that for a few weeks and seeing how it pans out, but that's just me. Once again, share your thoughts below, but for now guys, that's everything I have to talk about today. So also give me your thoughts on any of the new gear, those potential quests and Sandbox changes, but if you've enjoyed the video, a like down below is very much appreciated, and if you're new to the channel, be sure to hit subscribe, as I'll keep you posted with all of the news, guides, and that good stuff for Shadowkeep and beyond. For today though guys, thank you for tuning in as always, and whatever you get up to, I hope you have an awesome day.